Hi, everyone. I want to welcome you to our three-part bot training. I think the four of us, Amanda, Stephanie, Kimberly, I guess five of us, Heather, and I did a bot training through Playlab. And one thing that they asked us to do is to train other people to use bots. So we are putting on this presentation. And I have to admit, I started making a bot and then I stopped making my bot. So hopefully I go back to it. My name is Lori Levine and I create professional development at Reedley College. And this webinar is really just to explore how an AI-powered bot can streamline daily tasks, improve communication, and boost efficiently. And this is for everyone, whether you're a faculty member, classified, um, everyone can create their own bot and use their own bot to help them with their workflow. So we are going to be using Playlab, and some of you got a link to join, and we will add in another link in the chat when we get there for people to sign up. Playlab, I believe, is free for all of us, and they, if anyone else wants to talk about them a little bit, if not, I'm going to hand it over to Stephanie, who's going to start talking about more about bots and how to create a bot.
Thank you, Lori. And so my name is Stephanie Curry, and I'm a faculty member at Reedley College. And I took the bots webinar, and I have had entirely too much fun creating different bots to help with my workflow, my courses, and all kinds of different information. So today we're going to be really going through just a general introduction about like how bots can help you, what they can and cannot do as part of the discussion. And then really the majority of what we're going to be doing is demoing. Different ways that we have done bots, different things we have done. And then towards the end of the session, I'm going to take you behind the scenes to really look at how you kind of create bots in the back. We're also providing you some resources so you guys can think about bots you potentially want to create in the next session. And then some kind of guidelines and guardrails about things you want to think about as you're creating your bots. So please feel free to engage with us in the chat. Please put questions in there as we go. We'll try to answer them as we go through. If not, hopefully we'll have some time at the end to answer some questions. But we're really thinking about what bots can do to support you and your students. And so chatbots really are just a way of kind of harnessing the AI, right? Almost all of us have gone to like ChatGPT, Claude, or something like that and asked it questions. But it goes out into the big universe and brings back lots of stuff. What bots can do is really customize your GPT or your generative AI to what you specifically need it for. Whether it's support in a classroom, whether it's support in your job, whether it's calculation of resources or materials, you can train it to do exactly what you want it to do, rather than have the AIs use their own internal guardrails and guidelines to answer your questions. And so really, it can be a lot of help for students, right? Students can use this within structures of academic integrity and that type of thing, for tutoring and academic assistance, like asking questions, for personalized learning support, like how do I apply this to my own life? Homework and study help, interactive classroom engagement, like you can use it in your classroom to engage students in materials, organizing information, answering and analyzing data. All these things can be done using a chatbot in your course. The thing about creating a chatbot is it's an intentional creation of something you have as an outcome. Like if my outcome is to support students in using the written material of my course, then that's the outcome of that bot, right? And it's very intentional and designed that way specifically. And so we'll talk about that as we go through. You can also, as a faculty member, use it to create let me go back one more, to create things in your own course, right? I uploaded my OER textbook, and then I can ask it questions like, what's a good assignment for this chapter, right? Or give me some summary notes for this chapter that I can share with students. I can also use it to create quizzes, give different options, and so I can use it to help support creating activities for students within my course. Anything else that you guys want to share about how you can potentially use bots?
No, I just wanted to reiterate and really highlight your emphasis on what is the outcome you want to produce. A lot of times we get into the habit of using AI as another Google, which can be great, but a bot is you really want to focus on what is my outcome. It's a very intentional training choice, and having that in mind as you go through the training process is really going to help clarify what's the difference between just using random AI and really focusing on this creation of a bot.
Yeah, I always say it's about intentionality and iteration, right? You're intending to do something with it and you're always tweaking it, right? So I will tell you that ahead of time. You never do the bot the right the first time, right? It's always a system of trial and error to see how the outputs that you're getting are what you want. And so we'll talk a little bit about that iteration today. I do want to center this all in AI literacy, both for because I'm a librarian, like I have to mention AI literacy, but it's also something that we should keep in mind as we are developing our bots. What is our own personal AI literacy? Like understanding the basics, recognizing the ethical uses of these resources, deal with privacy implications, the need for transparency, all those different things that we need to know as educators when we're using AI. But also, if you're using an AI with a student, how are they going to be using it ethically and socially, right? How are they going to understand its capabilities and limitations? These are all things that we should be having a conversation together with our students when it comes to AI literacy and the use of bots, because it's really important to have that context when you're using AI, right? So students understand, like I have created this bot for you to use, but it does have limitations. There are issues of privacy, it's ethical use issues. And so all those things need to be kind of discussed as you're using AI within your job and also in your classroom. So just talk about that. All right. And then when you're building, you can build student-facing bots, or you can build bots that help you in your own work, right? But I just want to note a couple things as you're thinking about what kind of bot you want to create. It's really important to set guidelines and conversation rules within your bot. Like you're going to train it and tell it what it can and cannot do. Sometimes we'll do it anyways, but you're going to tell it what it can and cannot do as part of that. Bots are unmonitored in general, right? You don't get a notification every time somebody uses a bot. Can't interact with it. If students are using bots, they may be asking for help in a way that may not be, they're going out into the void, right? So if somebody's trying to use a bot for call out to help, that's really not going to help them. And so you may want to make sure students know that. That's part of that AI literacy about what a bot can be used and not used for. And then as you're creating your bot, you want to test it, right? This is an iterative process. And I highly recommend you have other people try to not necessarily break it, but try to make sure you're trying it with different people, with colleagues, with others, to help to create that iterative process to make sure it's doing what you tell it it wants to do, and make sure you're supporting that. So get a group together as you're creating your bot. Maybe if you have a couple of people in your college that are doing this, test each other's bots and try to make sure that it's getting the outcomes that you're looking for. And then in connection with the mental wellness things, because students may, especially if it's a homework helper or if it's a classroom management one, they may be again asking for health. And so there's some language you can put into the bots in the behind the scenes, telling them that this is not a trained health and wellness bot, and that they recommend that they use other services. And you can put in links to other services saying, if a student asks for help, this is what you do as part of that. So just be mindful if it's student facing that students may be asking for help in it. And we'll share these resources and kind of ideas on the PowerPoints that you can look at later. All right. And Lori, I put it in the chat. If you have questions, please stop us. I have a tendency to just talk, and I talk very fast. So I don't want to like roll it up all and keep going on if you guys do have questions. Amanda, Kimberly, Heather, do you guys have anything else you want to say about what we talked about previously before we get to the demos?
Nope, just ditto everything you said, especially with the health and wellness. Even if you think nobody would use the bot to call for help, it's always good just to have that guideline in there for the bot. That way there's a standard answer and you don't have to regret, oh my goodness, I should have just put that line in there. So it's great to just create one and have it in there in your guidelines.
And Ashley, I just saw this, your quote about how it can be used for classified staff as well. It can be used in many different ways. Classified staff, often we're working with students. You can create student facing bots that support them with resources and services. I just had a colleague share a bot about LGBTQ and DACA resources. She created one specifically for students so they could ask for resources on that, and that's kind of a student facing one. But it can also be used to help streamline your work. Yesterday I was doing a PowerPoint and I had so much information, I was getting overloaded. I created a bot, put all my information in, and I just started asking it questions. Like, this is the title of my PowerPoint slide. How can I do that as part of that? Virginia, I do not know what live chat is. So there's a question about would it be in tandem with our current live chat that FCC already uses.
Is that like our chat bot that we have?
I assume it's their bot. So this is just your own personal version of that. It's a little more complicated than that, but this is your own personal version of the bot that's deployed on websites.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, like, I don't know if Ocelot or some of these other ones have two-way communication. The bot does not have two-way communication currently, right? So it's a one-way information track as part of that. All right. Any other comments or questions before we move on to kind of demo, just kind of show you what it can be done? Oh, Amanda, have you used Copilot?
Yeah, Copilot, it's just another form of like ChatGPT. The big difference is, and it'll be more clear as Stephanie goes and we go through the presentation, is this allows you to train it to say the things and give the information you want it to give. If you've ever interacted with like Copilot and ChatGPT, it can bring forth information that is just way out of left field, not helpful, not what you would want students or a peer to say. So this allows you to train it on very specific information that you want to provide.
It's like a customized ChatGPT or Copilot, right? It's smaller, it's customized, and it's specifically around what you train it to do as part of that conversation.
I would imagine that you could, like, if you deal with data in your job too, you might be able to train a bot helping you deal with that data in your job. I think there's like tons and tons of applications for people who are non-instructional faculty. I know Kimberly is going to show us one, and so there are lots of ways you can use a bot for your job.
It might be an oversimplification, but I like to think of it as a specialist versus a general practitioner. A general GPT can give you a lot of really good information, but if you really want something specific, you go to a specialist. So that might be a way to just organize it in your brain what the difference between the two are.
And Susanna's talking about this bot could be used for like commonly asked questions about your class, right? Students are navigating your class. How do I do this in Canvas? What do I need to do with this type of things? And so a lot of people have created them as Canvas support. And I've talked to instructors who've done that, and they've said, like, I get a lot less of the like technical questions, right? Because they can go in there like, how do I access the discussion boards or whatever it is? And it can tell them that without them having to email you. Right. And so they said that since they created this like classroom support bot, they ask that more often than they do the faculty member. So if you have an FAQ or you have some other that stuff like that, you can add it in there and have it as a resource for students. They can still reach out to you, but some of those simple questions that are asked over and over again potentially could be answered by the bot. All right. So bots are more fun if you actually get to see them. Right? Rather than PowerPoint presentations on screenshots with bots, let's actually look at the bots. And so we're going to spend a good amount of time today kind of looking at and demoing what the bots look like and how they can be used. And so I believe Kimberly is first. So I'm going to stop the PowerPoint. We do have links to all the different resources in the PowerPoint. So we're not going to go through each one of them. We're actually going to demo them. But if you want to go back and explore them later, you can actually go through the PowerPoint and access those, right? So we're not going to like stop at this slide and talk about it. We're actually going to demo it for you as part of that. So I'm going to stop the share and I'm going to invite Kimberly to share her screen and show off her bot.
Thank you. My name's Kimberly Mullins and I'm a counseling instructor at Reedley College. So I have experience doing the academic counseling side and also the instruction side. And so when I got to take part in the Playlab training last semester, I wanted to create something because I was very, very new to the whole AI world and a chat bot and what can it do. And so I was just thinking of, okay, what do I know? How can I create something that would be helpful for students and maybe even like counselors or people working with students? So I created what I'm calling a GPA assistant chatbot. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and show you a rundown of it. All right. Okay, I believe that's sharing now. So I'll go ahead and launch it and we can use a demo.
Can you make the screen a little bit bigger?
Sure.
I like the
Let me see. Oops.
yeah.
Yeah, the type on the student facing or the public facing on it's pretty small. Once you get into it, it might help. It might be better.
Is this better?
That's better, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, now I don't know where my my typing box is. Let me see something really quick. Where's the okay, never mind. Okay, so students can use this. It was on this slide, but if I wanted just to calculate my GPA, I can easily do that. So I can get started. And just really basically, I can have it help me calculate my grade point average. So if I was a student, and I'm trying out this app, this AI chat bot. It starts off with, like, welcome to the GPA Assistant app. Are you ready to get started? And so I could say yes, and then it's going to ask me to provide them with like the grades that I received and the units. So maybe it's my first semester in college, and I'm taking counseling 53. Is a 3-unit class, and maybe I'm planning on getting an A, or I got an A. Oops, I put 3 units. And it's pretty neat because you don't have to type perfectly. And so I try to run like test scenarios with like how students might type, and they don't put all the spaces and all of the correct punctuation and everything, and it'll still pick it up. So, and let's say I'm taking, I also have English 1A, that is 4 units, and I got BB. And then maybe I also took, I have, what's another class? We'll say IS 15. And I got for 3 units, and I got a C. Okay, we'll give it a lot of different options, different grades to test. So it's going to go through and calculate, it shows the student how it's calculated. So when you're calculating grade points, you multiply the letter grade point by the unit of the class, total up all your grade points, divide it by your total units. So in this case, I would have a 3.0 GPA. And you can run through different scenarios, like it can help students create educational goals. So if I am a student who has a 2.8 GPA and maybe I'm looking into applying to a transfer program that requires a 3.0, I can run through this and say, what kind of a GPA do I need to achieve in my next few semesters to reach that educational goal of a 3.0? And it'll tell you that too. So if I said, I have a 2.8 GPA in the past 30 units, and I want to get a overall 3.0 GPA. I still have 30 units to take. How can I get a 3.0? And then it'll walk you through that, and how you could achieve it if it's possible. Sometimes it's not possible. If I had like a 1.5 and I have 15 units left and I want a 4.0, that's not going to work. So then it'll summarize what you can do. So achieve this, the GPA will for your remaining 30 units needs to be, I need to strive for at least a 3.2 in my remaining classes. So mostly A's and B's, and I'll be able to reach that educational goal. Um, Students can also use this if they're on like academic notice or probation. And so maybe they're going to repeat a class or alleviate a class and they want to see how that will affect their GPA. After repeating a class, you can run through that scenario with it and it can tell you what your GPA would change to. So this is something that counselors know how to do. And I teach this how to calculate your grade point average in my counseling 53 class. And so this is just another kind of assistant that can be used. So I've had some of my colleagues use this chat bot to see how it works, and they said it was working good. And I've also got feedback of how I can add more to it and develop it more to help out students and different counseling services and stuff. So it's something I'd like to continue working on. And I'm always open for feedback, but this is like the starting point that I had. Cause again, like I said, I was very new to the whole AI world and I wanted to get a good grasp of how it all works. So, does anybody have any questions?
There's a great question in the chat, Kimberly, and it sounds like a counseling question, so maybe we can elaborate on it. Could the chatbot help students factor in the probation factor and staying above 2.0 accumulative GPA?
So if I understand it correctly, let's say a student has like a 1.8, so their overall GPA is 1.8, they might be on academic probation, and now they want to get back on good standing, so they need at least a 2.0. So you could plug in like I currently have a 1.8 GPA and I'm taking 12 units. What grades do I need to get to reach a 2.0? And it'll tell you what that would be calculated to. And I could share the link to play around with the chatbot, and you could share it with students and yourself, and it would show you. I don't know if we have time to do more scenarios, but I can definitely share that link and you can try out some of those different scenarios and see how that works. And then, give me the feedback. I'd love it if it's working great. If it's not working great, I need to change something. I would love to get that feedback too, because as Stephanie and Amanda were talking, like sometimes it doesn't do what you want it to do and you set guardrails. And so I've tried my best to do that, to not have it advise students on what classes to take and things like that. So yeah, I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute. But were there any other questions?
And I just wanted to add that those are the nice guardrails where if students do start asking those type of questions, you're able to direct them to who to go to. Like if there's questions they ask that would be better suited to a live counselor, then you can put that contact information into the chat bot so students have that just-in-time support of no, this is who I need to call, this is the email that I need to have in order to get those questions answered.
Yes, good point.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. That was really exciting, and I'm sure everybody's going to be typing in their GPA. Like, what does that do? Right?
Thank you. I'll work on getting that in the chat box right now.
Well, and there's a question from Enrique about does it have a shared link, right? And then can it be used as like in an Outlook signature page or added into Canvas? So I don't know if you want to answer that or if you want me to.
Yeah, I'll share the link in the chat. And so if you copied that, you can email that out to students, or, it is something that I'm continuing to develop. So if there's errors on it, you'd have to let me know so I can work to get that fixed. So far, it's been working well. But it is something that I also plan on sharing like with my classes and things. And so if they have the link, they can use it on their computer, on their phone. And so, yeah, it can be shared.
Yeah, when you publish it when you're done, like on the back end, it does give you a link, a shareable link that I embedded into Canvas for my course, or I can share with other people. It also gives you a QR code that links directly back to your bot, so you can share it in multiple different ways. And I've done it in both ways. That it's easy to access and through those specific areas. It's not necessarily integrated into Canvas, which would be great, like if you could create modules with it and things like that, and link it in that way, but you can embed it in with a link. All right. And people are saying that they want to play around with it, so that's awesome. Heather, did you want to share your bot?
I can.
You don't want to, I can go into mine and you can wait, but.
No, I can. Let me find the right screen. So before I do that, my name is Heather Paul. I am an English instructor here at Reedley, but um, I was primarily what Lori is now. So I was arranging, organizing PD for faculty here at Reedley, and now I am our distance education coordinator. So before I show you the bot that I've been working on, for our classified colleagues here, I think that what I'm going to say is going to resonate with you. I get tired of answering the same questions for faculty over and over and over again. It is tiresome. And so my bot was born out of that lack of patience for my faculty colleagues. I think I saw Sam here, Cardenas. So I'm like, Sam, when we harass you with questions, like build us a bot. I built a bot to try and help mitigate some of those questions about sort of two different things. So one is we have a certification requirement for faculty that want to teach online here. So I wanted it to help faculty understand what their options were for certification and for recertification. And then the second part that I wanted it to do was help faculty understand what regular substantive interaction is, RSI is, and how they might meet it in their own classrooms. So those two sort of things. And I want to say that it is super duper a work in progress, and I actually haven't been messing with it lately. I think I shared the wrong screen. So we'll see how it goes. Okay. Do you see Playlab?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm giving you a look behind the scenes with this, which is what Stephanie's going to talk about after we look at all these things. But this is all of my telling my bot what I want it to do and what I don't want it to do. And when we talk about guidelines and guardrails, that's actually literally what it's called. That's for all that. So for over here, I like Kimberly love that I don't have to be super correct in how I type at it, even as an English teacher, right? So I've told it I want the bot to ask my users what they want, right? So then it helps the bot sort of figure out which direction it should go in. So I want it to tell me all about RSI. So it starts, I've given it references, right? So I've said, pull all of your information from these really specific things so that it's not making things up, right? Or trying to find the answers from elsewhere. And I've also said, like, I want you to quote these references, right? Because sometimes faculty get a little prickly when you say, like, this is what RSI is. Well, sometimes the response is like, says who, right? So this takes some of that out and it says, well, according to the laws, right, the guidelines, then this is what RSI is. So it's pulling from those references and giving them like just the general outlines of what RSI is. So now it says, would you like to discuss how you might meet these requirements in your courses? So yes, of course. Something that we frequently get asked is if I do a weekly announcement, does that count? So now it's going to look through all of its stuff, right, and tell me whether or not that works for RSI. So, and if you have dug into RSI in the way that we have here at Reedley in the last 2 weeks, then this is a great answer. So yes, a weekly announcement can be part of RSI as long as it adds to the value of the learning, right? So as long as it addresses something about the content, it can't just be like a, hey, remember to do your homework, right? So that's my bot. Question?
No, I would say that is excellent. And what it does is it really it streamlines your work, right? So I'm like, here, you ask this question, this first, and if you need clarification on something, I am happy to work with you on that, right? But if you just want a simple question of what's RSI, or is this RSI, or what do I need to do to make it this, it's going to help them be able to. And I like how you can engage with the bot, right? As part of that, by that conversation, it kind of prompts you to ask additional questions.
Yes. And, honestly, like, so I'm our distance education coordinator. Amanda's instructional design. Lori is PD. We have another faculty member that also works in ID. And if you ask each of us, like, hey, does this meet RSI? We might give you like slightly different answers, right? But if you ask this bot, like, it's going to give you the same answer every time. And so there's some continuity, some regularity, right, in our responses, and remove some of the ambiguity, I think.
And also, like Heather had said at the first part, it has the but who says so? It's nice like to be able to provide that documentation, and really it helps to check yourself when you're training these bots to make sure, oh, well, who does say so? Is that just some institutional or me knowledge that really has no backing in any law or legislature or guidelines? So in the process of training the bot, you allow yourself to be fact checked as well. That's one of the things that it's like an ancillary benefit of the training process.
Definitely. And I just want to add that, like, I won't say that I am not technologically capable, but I thought that training a bot was going to be really hard, and it is not. It's really just like you just tell it what to do, and it does it, and it's kind of like magic, and it's super cool. I will say and reinforce what Stephanie and Kimberly said, is that, like, I think of this as like a Goldilocks situation, like too many no, not enough guardrails, too many words, no, not enough words. And it's like over and over and over and over again, like testing this thing. And I think at some point, like, I just need to bite the bullet and like launch it, but I'm afraid.
I was gonna say, Heather, do you want to put the link and so we can play with it later? And
I could do that.
If you haven't launched
okay.
it yet, you can't link it.
Because
But
I think everyone needs RSI stuff. So anyway, and then Stephanie, do you want to share or were you going to share another one of your bots, Heather? No. Okay.
no, let me share. First of all, I want to share, like, you've heard two examples of different types of bots, right? One that's like a student facing, like a student can engage with it. One's more like faculty driven, and for resources and support. There's so many ways to use bots. And so as part of the classes that many of us took, people shared their bots. Like, what are they doing with bots? And so I just want to show you, like, this is in my section, and there were 4 sections with a whole bunch of different people in it. These are kind of bots that people created, right? So if you're germinating ideas of like, what kind of bot can I create? People created them for a virtual debate coach, right? Somebody did a nutrition navigator. Somebody else did a business plan generator, right? How can students create a business plan as part of that? Instructional design support. There's one that you can to look at robotics. Data Genie, right? If you're doing data and you're collecting a whole bunch of data, do you want to put that together and have it put some up? That's a library assistant bot. Right? There's all kinds of different, so people did it for student services, people did it for counseling, OER, all kinds of different things. And you can see here, I know I'm going through here, but there's lots of different options here for different types of bots people created. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Once you actually get into Playlab, you can hit explore here, and you can actually type and see, like, what are people doing in on financial literacy, right? And it'll bring you bots about financial literacy, right? If you want to do stuff about writing, here's different bots that people have shared on writing. And you could actually go in and look and see how they built those bots as part of that. So if you're looking to generate some great ideas of how you can use bots, once you get access and turn into Playlab, go through the explore area and look and see what other people have created and see what you potentially could use to do that. All right, so you may recognize this from Heather's demo, and this is the back end of bots. Let me actually go here real quick to my apps real quick. So when you get into Playlab, you can select, so this is my workplaces, these are my starred ones. I've created a couple different ones that are faculty facing. Universal Design for Learning, which is a way of using designing courses intentionally. And I created Explore, and what I did was I took all my research that I've done and I put it into the bot and said, use only these materials for answering questions, right? So it's not going out to the general websites or internet to get stuff. It's only answering things from what I asked it specifically to do. So if I ask it something like, how can I use UDL in biology, right? It can go through it. It will go through all that research, and then it will give you specifically ideas of how to do that in biology, right? Right. And then I could say, can you give me assignment I did? Right. And it's going to go through, and it's going to give differently assignment ideas. Right? So I'm looking for simulations, I'm looking for art showcases. How can I do this so that it's in the UDL framework, and give you great ideas about that. If you see here, what I specifically asked it to do was cite where they got the information in each one of the paragraphs, right? I'm a librarian, I make people cite everything, and so I make them cite each one of the different areas so that I know that it came from the material that I asked it to be trained to do, right? So these are ones that you could do for like research, exploring different things. But I also built one, let me go back here real quick, that is for my students, right? So this is my class helper. I created a class helper so they can engage with the material, my OER textbook and all the other written material I use in my classroom. And students can ask questions about it, right, from the resources. And this is where the build is, right? So when you build a Playlab, you really have to do with intentionality, and they're going to ask you to write out that intentionality in this section here, right? Because what happens here comes out here, and this is where you can test your bot, right? So this morning I went in and just did a couple of. That is a very good question, Julie. I don't know. I only teach one course. But the bot is the same, and it could possibly be used for multiple classes, right? Because it's from the same material. I wouldn't probably encapsulate it into a course material section, maybe not everything in math. But like if you're doing your calculus, it could be focused on calculus.
Yeah, I was
It
just
probably
curious because I wasn't sure if it would because the answer might be different depending on what level of a math class it is.
Yes.
Because I wouldn't want them to give an explanation that was maybe too advanced for the
I
level.
think and I think just what you articulated, you'd be better off doing one for each class so that it can provide the scaffolding that you want specifically for that, because then you can put that as a guardrail of don't provide advanced, whatever it might be, those specifics versus a general math one. You wouldn't be able, it would take a lot of iterating to get that level versus having a separate bot for each course.
Yeah. And so if I'm testing it just to see kind of what it does, so I asked it a question this morning: what's a chatbot? Right? Just simple quick thing, and it gives me a basic explanation of what a chatbot is, right? And if you see these parentheses here, it's going to quote where it got it from, right? And then if you go up here to the references, it will actually show you what the references are, and you can actually take you exactly there so you can see and match to make sure that you're getting accurate information, right? Because we do know chatbots can make things up, right? What we're trying to do with creating a curated list of resources and specifically your guidelines and guardrails is to keep that mythical stuff out and focus it specifically on the resources you want to talk about, right? And then I can say, and then I have it prompt questions, right? Is there a particular aspect of chatbots that you're interested in learning about, right? So it's making the student think about something else, right? I just don't know what the definition, but how can I use it? What's going to be doing that? So I then ask it like, how can I use it in education, right? And then it gives me a specific examples of how can I use this in education, right? As part of that information, right? And then to ask you, what's your main goal in using this, right? So it's prompting them to critically think about how the information that they're getting is being used as part of this information. I'm like, I really want it to streamline research, right? That's my goal. And so it's good, and then go in and specifically tell me, how can this be used specifically to streamline research? Right, so it's not just giving a student necessarily, or we haven't designed it so that it's just giving the student the answer, right? It's asking them to think further and engage with the chatbot to learn more about the subject, right? They could just walk in and say, what's a chatbot, and get the definition. But what it does is ask them, like, how do you really want to use this? What do you want to use this for? What is that information on? So that you can then go in and engage with the information, right? So how do you build it, right? And I will say just before that, it is built off GPT 4.0, but you can select other GPTs or AIs to be the basis of your AI system, right? So if you really like Claude, you can have yours built off of Claude. You can have it built off GPT. And there's some other ones in here that you can do as well. The default is kind of the GPT, but you can play around with it and see if it gives you different answers or different ways of answering it as you go through that. All right. So when you're building a bot, okay, any questions ahead of that? So I showed you just a couple little bots that I've created. And now I'm going to go into kind of like how you create the build part. Any questions before that? Or anybody else want to mention anything before I go into that area?
I don't know if you already mentioned, I had to step away to use the restroom, but at the end, we're going to share recorded videos that Playlab has created that's going to go through all of these steps. And so this information might be going pretty quick, and this is your first time hearing about it. So just make sure afterwards that you're going to watch the videos, and that's really going to help you and to repeat some of the info that Stephanie's been going over.
The other thing is I did put a link to a place where you can sign up for free for Playlab, where you can make your bots and I see a couple of people already started, so that's awesome. So yeah, just click that link there and then you can sign up.
All right, so if you're gonna build your bot, the first thing you're gonna really do is start with this kind of build section, right? And again, this is kind of all like an overview, and then you will be able to like walk through the different paces of it as you go through the asynchronous course that we're gonna show you. And Carrie, yes, this is being recorded as part of that. So the first of all, again, this is about intentionality. What is this bot going to do? Right? So you have to think about what is the bot going to do and who is your audience, because you're building it for a specific audience, right? So the background is going to say you are an expert in, and give you a blank, right? Whatever your bot's going to be an expert in. Is it going to be an expert in information literacy? Is it going to be an expert in RSI? Is it going to be an expert in GPA? You're going to tell the bot what it's going to be an expert at, right? And then specifically, what is its role, right? So my bot is to instruct and support, right, as part of that. And then it's going to ask you, who are you talking to, right? Who are you talking to as part of this thing? So mine are individuals or as students who are seeking to improve their information literacy skills, right? So that just grounds the bot in what its purpose is, right, as part of the conversation. And the bot needs to know that, like, what is my role in this bot? What is my role in supporting you in this? And it can be simple, right? It can be simple, like, again, you're an expert in information literacy, period, right? It could be more complicated as you go through, but this is my first bot, so it's simple, right? Potentially, yes. So Ashley's asking if our bots can be talked to two different audiences at once. It can, like faculty and students can use the same bot, but when you're doing your workflow, which is next, sometimes if it's a faculty member and they just want the answer, they may get frustrated in the amount of questions that they're being asked to get to that answer, right? But for students, I want it to be an iterative process. I want them to, I want the bot to keep asking them questions instead of just answering it. So depending on your audience, you may want to put more workflow issues in there, or you may want to put less, depending on your discussion or your intention for this. Yeah, there you go. You can ask, yes, Amanda, you could do that. You can ask what the role is, right? And have it train it so that if the role is student, it asks more questions. If it's a faculty member, it just gives the answers, right? Good idea. The second part of here is you're telling it what's your workflow. Like, what do you want it to say? What do you want it to do? So number one, I ask it, what specific aspect of information literacy you exploring today, right? That was the first question that asked me, and I answered, what's a chatbot, right? After they respond, ask them to specifically state their main goal in learning about that, right? So again, because this is student facing, I want them to think about why they're asking that question, right? As part of my information literacy conversation and that critical thinking opportunities, I want specifically to do that. And then as it's going through, I wanted to ask more questions and ask for more details on current challenges or questions related to information literacy. And then I give an example, like what kind of challenges are you having? And then I also encourage them to provide more context and make our assistance more targeted and effective, right? So that you're not asking big questions, but you're targeting down to the actual question that you want.
Stephanie, I have a question for you with the workflow and the steps. Do you only have 3 steps or can you have more?
Add more.
Okay.
Yeah, this is all basically a Word document. So you can add on and on and on. The default thing on the back end gives you 3, right? But I've had some that I have like 1 step, right? I've had some that I have 4 steps or 5 steps. You could add on to this because it's basically like a Word document. And some people get really complex about it, right? If they want students to do specific things or do things in a specific order, this can be very complex or it can be very simple depending on your need. Then what you're going to do is, and it's going to give you some default stuff, right, to start with when you first make your thing. Then you're going to do what we call the guidelines and guardrails, right? These are the lanes in which the AI can work, right? And so you're telling it, I only want you to do this. So things like avoid language that might seem judgmental or dismissive, right? I want asset-minded language in here. Be inclusive of your examples, consider multiple perspectives and avoid stereotypes, right? Anybody who's ever done a GPT search knows that sometimes there's stereotypes in there. Sometimes it doesn't give great information, right? So I want the bot to be conscious of multiple perspectives and avoiding stereotypes. I want clean and clear and concise responses, right? I want those, right? And then I ask it to encourage students to ask questions, use prompts like, what questions do you have about this topic? Or how can we investigate this further, right? So I want them to engage with the information. And you saw in the demo I did, like it's asking you to engage with that information. Support students in developing their own ideas and solutions, right? Don't just give them the answer, but talk about what are your thoughts on this? How can you approach this problem, right? Avoid giving direct answers, right, as part of that conversation. Because I want it to be a student engagement thing. Use diverse examples and scenarios. And then always encourage students to cite their sources, right? I'm a library skills person, right? We need to cite our sources. And so I want the bot to specifically remind them to cite their sources if they're using this information. And then you could ask the bot, how do I cite AI resources, right? That's one of the things we can do in it. And so these are not the guidelines I started with, right? These are ones that are evolving. Like I started out saying like, don't be mean to people and don't, say stuff that's bad, right? And I've been evolving this as I've been testing things. The great thing about Playlab when you're creating a bot on the behind scenes is this thing called the assistant. And the assistant helps you create the language that you're looking for, right? So if I'm looking for something specifically on how do I address bias in my guidelines and guardrails, it's going to actually give me language in here to help the bot understand what it's supposed to do. Right, so what I do is I actually copy and paste. I did this by myself, copy and pasted into the assistant and said, can you put this in language that the bot will understand? And it gave me more language to do that. And so it's a great place to kind of experiment on your guidelines and guardrails. Right. And then it's going to have conversation rules. And this may seem similar to guardrails, and sometimes this stuff is repeated. But guidelines and guardrails is like what the bot can and cannot do. And then the conversation rules are how are you going to engage with the student, or the faculty member or the audience on this. And so you can look through here about things like focus on the user's strength and existing knowledge to build their understanding, right? Maintain a positive tone, like in your conversations with them. Ensure the information is properly cited, right? So I repeat a couple things because these are really important to me and I want to make sure they're in there. All right, ask them reflective questions as part of your conversation. Suggest that students rephrase ideas in their own words and apply concepts to different scenarios, which helps them deepen understandings, right? That's part of those other ideas. Prompt students to analyze and evaluate information critically. That's part of the information literacy part, like that. And encourage students to combine different parts of information to make a whole conversation, right? So these are kind of conversation rules that I have kind of developed as I've been testing out the bot, right? And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm creating an assignment within my course for them to engage with the bot and then have them give me feedback on it, like a reflective assignment on how they use the bot and what kind of information they got out of it, so that I can help develop and build the bot better as part of that. All right. I also want to show you how to add references, right? So this is a bot that's been created to specifically answer questions about my textbook and my textbook material. So if you are creating a bot and you want it to be very curated and confined to that information, you add references. So if you click on here where it says references, these are all the references I uploaded, right? So they're PDF documents, they're links, they're resources. And again, all you have to do is drag and drop, right? Or upload, right? Click on add references to app. You could upload a file, you could upload a link, or you can browse through other resources. Right? So I can download a PDF of my textbook or my resource material, upload them. It doesn't always do well with URLs, depending on what the URL is. But on occasion, I have taken URL information, put it in a Word document and uploaded it, just so that I can have that information, even if the URL doesn't connect through. So
one thing I'm going to jump in here when we were doing this, what some people found out, if they had an OER book and they uploaded like it was a 200 or 300 word OER book or pages, that it would end up going outside, and they found it was better to add the chapters, like, and you can see it looks like Stephanie maybe had done some of that here too. So you can't always add in the whole book. You might need to add in, like, download the different chapters and then upload those.
yeah, so and again, engage with it, see what it does. But then when you get over here to the thing, check and see that it's making sure it's going to the stuff that you specifically uploaded, right? To make sure it's actually addressing those things. And that's what I told the chatbot, like, don't go outside, use this material, right? So you can add those things in there, right? You can also set it up, mine is not set up this way, but you can also set it up to students have to enter their ID number in it before they can access it. You can have them answer questions before you allow them access to that. You can set all these things up in like inputs for a starter input. Like I want students to add their ID number in before they go in, like, so I know who's using it, or I can give them credit for using it. You can actually add starter inputs as part of that information. I don't use it for those, but you can. You'll also have to set up your settings with things like a welcome message. Like, what do you want it to do? What do you want to, how do you want to engage with students right away? The app name, a short description, and then information, right? So here's where you'd ask for a profile before they get into it. Right.
Stephanie, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just wanted to check myself. Katrina was asking, does it have to be a PDF as a reference, or can we have a reference from a website? You can put a website in, correct?
Okay. Yeah. You can put, so if you go into the references, let me go there, add reference, you could upload a file or you could upload a URL. And so I've used URLs for a lot of my other ones. This one I'm using specifically my OER resources, which I could link to the internet, but I like to have the PDFs in there just so it seems like it's easier for them to access it. But if you really want to, you can put both in, right? See what works best. Again, it's a very iterative process, and you're going to spend a lot of time on this half over here testing out how things are working as part of that information. When you're testing it out, you can also test it out and go here to design and see what students are going to see. Right? So you can start here and just engage with it as a student would. And that way you can see the behind the scenes and then the front of the scenes as you're developing it. When you're ready, you can publish it, right? And so I just put this one up 7 days ago because my class started on Monday and I wasn't really ready for it yet, but I got it up and ready for my class. And so I published it 7 days ago. And if I want to share it, I have a link here. So I can copy the published link and then I can also download a QR code, right? So that it actually, I can embed this in PowerPoints. I can embed it in all kinds of other resources. And you can see here, it'll give you a QR code for that. We could do that. Here's where you publish. So when you're not ready, it's okay. I spent a lot of time on the back end before I publish something. When you publish it, it goes to public. And that one can only be accessed when you give permission to access it. I know it sounds like public, it goes to everybody, but it actually just goes, it creates those links that you can use to share and support to bots. I believe if you do, I'm still learning. So again, we're all still learning. But if you do ask for IDs, I believe you can go in the back end and see who's using it. Because I did go this morning, let me go back real quick. And I went into my activity. Actually, I believe they do. They do stay the same, for what I understand. I don't think you have to change those. I was able to go through and see activity on my bots. I don't remember where I found it. Maybe it was in, yeah, these are just, I found it this morning and it actually showed me like how many people are using it. And it said unknown user. So if they use an ID number or something like that, my guess it would be that would be what it specifically says. All right. Where did I find that? Of course, I'm trying to do it like in front of people and it never works, right? Yeah, I don't remember where it was, but you could actually go in and check to see what people are searching. You could, and then it specifically said, mine says unknown user because I don't require them to do that, but they should do that if you have other nodes. I'll find it for the next information.
I think it's, I don't see it from your screen.
Yeah.
That you're currently on, but oh, go to your workspace.
Yeah, my workspace. Okay.
And then it'll have apps and then activity, workspace members listed. Can you scroll up?
Yeah. Under my apps.
Click on my workspaces.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe click on a specific, yeah, there you go. And then it says activity right under your title, class assistant. Up higher.
Activity. Yay, there it is. That's where it was. Yes. So students are starting to use it because I just posted it up. And it can click down here. They engaged with it 17 times in this one, right? So they went here and they asked it questions. They want to learn about iterative JI. This is the information. How is it used? It like went through 17 different conversations with them before they finished their, they're asking like, maybe we shouldn't use it, but here you can use it in these different ways. But mine says anonymous right now, but yours should have the information on there as part of that.
And Stephanie, I apologize if you already answered this question, but Ashley asked, can we adjust our bots to only being accessible to people within our organization? And I believe the answer is you can share the link to specific people, but you can't block if
Right.
they're outside if the link is shared out.
Right. Like it can't be just like only people with like EDUs can use it, right? But if you do your app, the status when you publish it and you publish it as public, I know it's the weirdest thing, but if you publish it as public, people can only access it through the link that you sent, right? So it's not going to go up on a public website. It's going to be only accessed through your URL or QR code. So whoever has that URL or QR code can access it. It's not going to be like posted up to the internet. The ones that are in the Explore, people have published it, and they published it in order to be able to be used in public. So instead of publishing it public, you're publishing it to Playlab, which means other people can access it. It sounds counterintuitive, but that's what's been going through. So I wanted to finish within the hour so we have time for questions. Our goal then at our next thing is to really go through and like create a bot together and walk through the different steps and kind of have those conversations. Let me go back to the PowerPoint real quick, and then we can have some time for questions if that works. Does that work, Lori?
Yeah, we did this an hour and a half just to make sure we had plenty of time. If you missed the first webinar, can you join the other webinars? Absolutely. I will be sending out the recording, the slides, and and some extra resources to help you. So absolutely join us again if you missed this or can only stay for a little bit.
Okay. So what we want to talk about really is, so we put in links to our resources. Can you see the PowerPoint again? Okay. So we did put in links. So Kimberly put in her assistant if you want to play with that and enjoy. That's great. Heather talked about her one. I put some links into different ones if you want to try those out and explore. You can explore the different ways it engages with information. So we're going to ask you to do a couple things before our next one, and that's make sure you sign up for Playlab. Lori's put the link in a couple times, and we can always send it out to you if you need to. So you have access to Playlab, so you can play in the background and do those types of things. Playlab has an asynchronous course, right? It has different modules in it that you can walk through that'll teach you how to do the Playlab stuff step by step. And they're really great videos. They're going to walk you through. They're very short, 5 to 8 minutes long. And they're really going to help you develop the ideas for that. They're going to be the best practices, guidelines, how to upload documents, all those different things are going to be in those. So we encourage you to look through that asynchronous course before you come back to the next one. So we can walk through a bot and create as part of that conversation. Okay. That's the background that you see. Just we want to make sure you guys had a visual of that. And then again, as you're thinking about what you want your bot to do, right? A lot, it seems there's a lot of work in building a bot, right? But a lot of the work comes ahead of the building the bot, right? About intentionality of what is this bot's purpose and what is it going to do? So you really want to think about those things that you're going to be writing up in the background. Like, what is your background? What is the role of the bot? Have a clear idea. And who is it going to interact with? Like, what is the audience? In the workflow, how do you want people to interact with it, right? Do you want them to have, back and forth conversation? Do you want it to just answer a question? Do you want to have explanation in it? So Kimberly's could have just given them a GPA, right? But what it did was it walked through the actual steps of how to calculate the GPA, right? It wasn't just an answer, it was that process. What do you want those guidelines and guardrails to be, right? How do you want the bot, what do you want it to do or not to do? Those are the kind of conversations you need to have in your head before you start a bot. And then how do you want that bot to interact with people, right? What are those conversation rules that you want to have? And so it's a good idea to think about those things before you even sit down and start a bot. And then we do have some homework for you, right? Before you come back to the next one is, again, start thinking about what you want your bot to be. Do that asynchronous course and answer some of those questions, like what's your outcome going to be of that bot? Who's your audience? What resources do you want to curate in order to be able to have that bot access? And then how do you want your audience to interact with that? And so that way you're thinking about these things ahead of time. And as we come back the next time when we build the bot to get a bot together, we can talk about how we would answer those questions and then support you in creating some of those areas. And then here's the Playlab asynchronous course, again, for you to explore, to look at, and to help you engage with building a bot. Kimberly, anything else you want to, I'm sorry, I took over that slide.
Oh, no, you're great. I put a link in the chat to the Playlab asynchronous course. And so, yeah, like, the demonstration that Stephanie went through was awesome. But if you want to go back and take some time and watch those short videos, they have videos for all of those different steps.
Yeah, and we just
Yeah.
really want to show you what the background looks like, but that will really dig into those.
And then Enrique had shared another Playlab source that I put on here again. And someone have asked, can you invite some of your colleagues to Playlab using the link I gave you? Yes, you can. Also, just so you know, when you go there, you should see my workspaces, and it says like add a new workspace. If you click on that and you name it and create the workspace, there will be an invite link so then you can invite other people too. So however you want to do it, but yes, you can add other people or invite them and so forth. So are there other questions? Anything else you have to say, Stephanie?
No, I just want to, I say that, please, it is a little frustrating when you're first getting started, right? You don't exactly know what's going on. It will require you to change things up a couple of times as you're going through that. But it becomes a fun process to see what the guidelines and guardrails and configuration things, how they translate into the answers that they're getting out of your guide. And it's just a really interesting way to use AI, but within a structured environment. And I think that's one of the exciting opportunities to do that.
Daisy asks, what is the average length of time it takes to build a bot? I know you mentioned that you can adjust it as you go.
Yeah, I would say the first one takes a while. Right? The first one takes a while because you have to create all those guidelines and guardrails and things like that. Once you do that, you can use those over and over again in different bots, right? So, like I have a student-facing guidelines and guardrails and conversation rules, and I have a faculty one, or like a self one or faculty one, right? And so the first one took, a couple hours to kind of get it up and running, and then many, many days of iteration, right? Going in and trying different things as part of it. But once I did that, then I can create a bot in 20 minutes or less than 20 minutes, right? Yesterday, I was getting frustrated. I was like, okay, I'm copying and pasting my guardrails. I'm adding resources to this. And I had the bot up and running in like 10 minutes, right? So once you kind of get those foundational things done and you get them to the point where they actually work for you, you can kind of copy and paste them into other bots as you're going through. So if you're doing multiple classes, you're going to create one, and then you can use some of the guidelines and guardrails types things that you've used for that class in another class, right? You'd upload different materials, you'd make the changes in it, and change some of the guidelines, but a good portion of your work is already done once you get those guidelines and guardrails done.
And it's also going to depend on how complicated it is. So if you have one that's very specific for a very specific thing, then you're only going to need to upload a smaller amount of references. But if you have something that is going to be used for a broad scope, then you're going to need to keep uploading references and keep training it. So it really is also subjective to what you're trying to do with it. The narrower the scope, the smaller the training is going to be. The broader it is, the more you're going to have to iterate with it and get it the resources that it needs and see how it's responding to different questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the bot that I created, I felt like was a lot more basic compared to what other people were developing. And so, of course, being my first time, it did take me an hour, maybe more, just to get it started. And then, like Stephanie and they said, you want to practice it, work with it, have some colleagues test it out for you. I've heard some people say that they've tested it on students and they ask them to try to break it so they can see where are those errors and where do I need to keep, improving on it. And so, yeah, like they were saying, it depends on how like mine's a little bit more basics and some are a little bit more advanced. And then of course, Stephanie's a chatbot wizard, so you can get to her level one day.
It's all about repetition and trying different things out, right? And being able to do that.
Is there a canned bot for answering common questions from students where I could simply add in my specific information and it would be ready to publish?
Probably not, because you want it to be more customized, but you can go through, and I didn't show you guys this because this is kind of advanced stuff, but Let me go to Playlab real quick. Um,
Hey, while you're doing that, Stephanie, can more than one person work on a bot at the same time? I can't remember.
well, I don't know if there's any like sharing. I've never done that. It's in your own workspace.
Okay.
So unless they sign in as you, I don't think so. You can sign in multiple times, like as part of that, but I don't know if you could do it other ways. So let me show you real quick. Okay, so say you want to, so let me share you go. Say you see in Explorer or someplace else, you see a bot that you really think is really kind of cool and you want to see how they did it. You can actually go up here and remix it. And that means you kind of like download their bot and you can kind of use that as a template to start something. Right? If you're developing bots, I highly recommend you create your own first, right? So you understand the process in doing that. But then if you want to go in and see how other people do it, you could click here and say remix. And then what you could do is then see how they created stuff, right? They're going to show you how their reference is done, what their guidelines and guardrails are. And then you can choose, so I'm going to put it in my remixes, remix this, and then I can use this as a template to start. So it's going to have the references in there. It's going to have their workflow. So if you kind of want to copy what somebody else is already doing, but then make it your own, you could remix it and then use that as a template to start with. But if you're creating lots of different bots, I would again recommend you go through the whole process first just to see how it's kind of developed. And then you can go in and borrow other people's remixes, right? So I wanted to see how somebody did an AIPA formulator, right? So I downloaded it just so I can walk through and see that. If I want to recreate it, I could use that as a base, right? As part of that. So once you publish it into the Playlab area or publish it, then people can use it as a base for other ones. That makes sense? So I wouldn't necessarily download it and just use it by, without customizing it and doing type stuff, but it can be used as a ground level for conversations and a way to look at how other people are building their bots as part of that conversation. And California Community Colleges, there's lots of different things. You can explore them and remix them as part of those conversations. Does that help on the question? Yes, Julie, there's an option to invite people to your workspace. Oh, awesome. How do you do that? Again, we're exploring, so this is pretty awesome. We're gonna get lots of people together to do apps and share different things. Right. Other questions? Oops, we got a new chat.
You're welcome. So part 2 is, I put the date both for April 9th, I believe, same time. Let me double check the time. And I'm sorry, April 2nd and then April 9th. So we did 2 weeks. So you could start building a bot, think about those questions, and then come back with questions, and then we'll do more work. And if you have a chance, watch those videos. If you don't, you don't. It's all good.
And Robert, I'm not sure anybody's created a bot on grading hard work, but we can look and see. Feel free to explore artwork. Yeah, feel free to explore and do that. I know somebody who did grading in ChatGPT, but I haven't seen anybody do it. But look and see if somebody's done it already. Let's remix and get some of their information.
Yeah, that would be interesting because I know some people have put like assignments into ChatGPT to grade, and I'm wondering if you could create your own grading bot for certain assignments. As an English teacher, that sounds wonderful, but I also feel very guilty about doing stuff like that.
I have a colleague who has a preliminary grade, and gives them feedback on this is for a chat type thing. They're doing a dialogue and has a preliminary grade and evaluation on there, but it specifically states in there this is not the final grade. It may change once the instructor reviews the transcript, but it does give them a preliminary. You did great in this. You may want to do more in that type stuff. But that's a back build, and that's a lot of stuff on the back build.
I also seen use case where an instructor let students choose. If you want to have immediate feedback, you can utilize this AI for grading. I will grade it. It might take me, the standard amount of time, however that long is. But then students understand that they're getting something that is AI graded and they have that choice. It still needs to be a bot that you've trained so that it's an appropriate assessment, but have heard use cases where instructors utilize it in that form.
Yeah, I use a bot that someone else made that gives them feedback on their essays. It won't write anything for them, but it gives them feedback. And the feedback is actually pretty good. And you're allowed to put in some of your own guardrails, but I like it. So I could see doing something like that, but they cannot check. It won't write for them. So
And
anyway,
I have,
go ahead, Stephanie.
I had a faculty member who has it one on creating theses, right? Theses. She said the actual engagement with students about using the bot is even more valuable than the bot itself, right? It's all about engaging with them and this kind of AI literacy about what the bot can and cannot do and how it's kind of trained to create these types of things. It's been the real critical thinking opportunity within her course. Students can engage with the bot and then have a conversation about it, like what worked, what doesn't work, why does it do this and not do that. It's been a really great opportunity for her to engage with students in that. And then somebody wanted to see what the student facing or the public facing looks like. It looks just like it did when Kimberly was doing it. Like this is the basic. As soon as you get that link, it'll come to here and hit start. And if it's one of those ones you have to sign in first, it'll ask you those questions before it goes into the bot, but then it'll go here and it's kind of just a general option here. We did talk to Playlab, or people to ask Playlab, like, can we engage with photographs and do other things in it, and like avatars and other things, and they're not quite there yet. But we do know that this is going to be expanding and evolving over the year to see how things will go. And so I do not doubt that sooner or later other images and avatars and things like that will come up as part of that. This is very streamlined right now, but it's also free and it's a great opportunity for us to use it.
Yeah, and you can create bots in other platforms too, but I think this one, I like the way this one is and the help that they give you too. So any other questions, thoughts? One thing that I was thinking is if a lot of people work in the same area and they need one bot for some of the work that they do, you might talk about it with each other and create a bot for all of you. Definitely, I feel like English faculty could do things like that or something, or one framework that you can remix and then make it your own bot. So yeah, anything else? Any other questions? This has been really great and I can't wait to start working on a new bot. Finished my other bot. Okay, well, that's it. Then I will go ahead and say goodbye, and I will actually just stop the recording again. I will send this out to everyone, and I will send the invite link again and the PowerPoint and other resources.